Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaeden Schafer. Today on the podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined by Brian Solis, who serves as the Senior Innovation Leader over at ServiceNow. He focuses on the company's innovation strategy and exploring emerging technologies, which obviously a lot of that today is AI. They're focusing specifically on helping transform enterprise workflows. They're working on a bunch of cutting edge capabilities with AI, automation, emerging tech. So it's exciting to have you on the show today, Brian, and excited to pick your brain.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to see you again. It's been too long. Hopefully it's not a long time for the next conversation. Things are moving so fast. So thank you, Jaeden.
Exactly. Yeah. For those that have been around for a while, we had Brian on the AI Applied podcast about a year ago. I feel like it's been now. So long overdue to get you back on. We'll have to do it more frequently, but excited to have you on. This is a company that you guys have made a lot of big investments in AI. You've done a lot of big things. Do you want to just give like a broad overview of basically where they might encounter ServiceNow or where you guys are kind of playing in the industry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity. ServiceNow has been in this game, and by this game I mean enterprise software for almost 25 years. And we grew up in ITSM. And the interesting thing is that the only reason we grew up in ITSM is because our original founder, Fred Luddy, had to focus on something
Okay.
because what he had actually built was a platform for workflows. And it was too big of a concept back then. It's still kind of a big concept for people to get their mind around. So they needed it to focus on one particular thing that could control workflows for particular systems. So like say in ITSM, you are an employee and there's something wrong with your laptop and you need help. And so you open a ticket and everything that you do is connected by one system so that it's efficient, it's optimized, it's centralized, it's operating off of one CMDB. And now take that concept and expand it across your enterprise. So if you're an employee and you have a question about HR or leave, or you want to file a ticket to take a holiday, and everything that touches, or if you're onboarding as an employee and you need your laptop and you need to register for your payroll and everything that's connected around the organization, every workflow can be done on that platform on one CMDB. And what becomes really important though is when it's all connected, as you're designing the workflows to go across the enterprise, it's connecting people, it's connecting workflows, it's connecting systems, it's connecting data. And more importantly, that's where AI thrives. So now you can think about everything from summarization in moments of, say you're talking to IT and you're an employee and you've had this issue several times, the agent can know exactly everything that's happened over the past and get right to the chase. Or now agentic. So now that the system understands the workflow, it's optimized the workflow across the enterprise, now your agents can actually start to do the tasks for you across the workflow.
And this is what I think a lot of people are most excited about. And I think a company like ServiceNow, there's a number of others that are, I think, really well positioned to do some impressive things with agents. But basically, when you have these systems that are integrated with all of the data in your company, they understand the context of what's going on. I think that's when you can basically see the most benefit from these agentic systems. For you guys, what are kind of like the most exciting use cases that maybe you're doing today or you're planning on as far as like the agent actually going and executing and saving people time, basically?
We have this, so we can geek out quite a bit, but if you really want to hear some crazy stories, I would actually go to our site and look up our Now on Now team.
Sure. Okay.
Because we are customer zero. And so I think the most interesting stories are our own because we test everything, we apply it and we scale it so that we actually are a use case for our customers. So for example, our IT group has been on this path towards autonomous IT for a really long time.
Okay.
And just to give you an idea, we've been in the AI game it's got to be going on 10 years, going back to like before generative AI, of course, made everything consumable by everyone. Going back to RPA and ML and predictive analytics, the team has been building out an AI COA for a very long time, or Center of Excellence, and that has informed all of the products. And so since it's a single platform and it's a single base of code, this thing is grown substantially over the years. And so if you think about a use case with IT, when we use it, it's so now optimized with agents doing things for you as the employee or you as the IT agent, a human agent, that things now can flow on their own. And the studies that, not the studies, but actually the use cases that we're publishing right now show how much human time we're saving, how much faster things are getting. And they're dramatically faster. And then also how much smarter everything's getting along the way. And the interesting thing that we're also documenting is the user experience. How does an agent feel after this? How does an employee feel as a result of this? Because as you can imagine, going back to the days before all of this stuff started to get optimized, the user experience was kind of poor, time was kind of dragging, and we all have better things to do. And now that the agentic AI portion is starting to prove out, the team is moving on to, we have an AI control tower, which is
Okay.
pretty rad. And so if you think about agentic workforce management, we're able to see, we're observability is incredible. Accountability is incredible. We're really big on trust, but we're able to see everything that's happening. We're able to see where things are not happening if we need to do anything about it. But more importantly, we're able to connect other agents, other data sources across the board. And ultimately, what we're allowing is the proving grounds for as these things can start to become anonymous. So the path that we're already on for ourselves is the path that we're hoping to take at scale to our customers. Right now, our now is very big on IT, but it could be the same for they're also very big on our HR. So our use cases are across every application that goes through your work. So think finance, think procurement, think supply chain. And so as these things start to come together, it becomes more powerful. And I want you to 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 think about this story as it relates to the MIT
Sure.
study that came out recently,
Okay.
where you had seen 95% of companies reporting little or no value returns on their AI investments,
Yeah.
and specifically to pilots. And when you read the report, what you're actually seeing is these in a corner workflows that definitely don't expand across the enterprise. And why that becomes important is because AI needs data. AI needs more than just a siloed slice of a workflow. And when you read the report, it actually says that the use cases that they were studying weren't thinking big enough. And so when we look at, say, for example, the now on now stories
Yeah.
for how we're going across an entire flow, you're giving AI the space to actually do something. You're giving AI the space to actually learn and improve. And then your measures are cost takeout, productivity, time gained, et cetera. And then where you can take that story next is, what do you want to do with that free time? What do you want to do with those freed up resources? Because then that's where we don't just see AI powered automation. We can see opportunities like reskilling human agents to deliver greater service or value or experiences to their constituents, whether that's employees or eventually customers. And that then, if we could improve service delivery across the board, that means that we could build better relationships, better customer lifetime value, better retention, all of the good things.
Yeah.
And that's where MIT was saying is like, we're thinking too small. You're not going to get the types of returns if you're not actually being more expansive in your thinking and your pilots. And last but not least, what makes that even more interesting is, I believe there was a study published by McKinsey Quantum Black that they studied AI ROI, and where they found, of all the attributes that they were studying in terms of return on investment, the number one performer was reimagining or optimizing a workflow through AI and agentic AI. It had the
Okay.
number one impact on EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes. And that's the kind of ROI I think we want to see more about, and less of like what we saw with the MIT report. But essentially, that is our use case. We are transforming the enterprise. We're not just transforming pockets of the enterprise.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, that's so important. Brian, so as you're seeing AI get applied and integrated into a lot of different systems, what are some of the areas that you are most excited about personally? And maybe this isn't somewhere where ServiceNow is specifically working on, maybe it is, but like as far as you're looking at AI really starting to automate and do things for people, what are the areas that excite you the most in the space?
I can't even, I don't even know where to start. I am so excited across the board. I'll answer the question, but just to give you an aside, I was one of those people who absolutely had to, if I opened a tab on my browser. I had to process it and deal with it, move on, close it.
Okay.
And now I am the person that I dreaded. I have way too many tabs open, way too many things that are happening, way too many things I want to process. And thank goodness for, honestly, thank goodness for Comet and for Atlas, because now I can have, and particularly with Atlas, now I can have my agents just kind of synthesize for me across all of the tabs and give to me what I need in the way that I need to see it, and populating the fields in the way that I need to process the information. So I feel like, that's what I'm super excited about, because I was getting underwater there for a minute, and now I have the ability to take back control through, and this is where I want to go, is through that augmentation. Right? So
100%.
I'm not asking it to do my work for me or to replace me or to do my thinking. I'm asking it to tee it up for a place where I can work my magic. And so now, together with AI, I'm able to do more. So like what we were talking about earlier, I have now freed up time. I can now do more. I can now expand my brain at speeds and levels not possible before. And so I have to ask myself, now that I do that, now that I can do that, what do I do with it? What do I do with my freed up time? And where can I add greater value? And so when you bring that mindset to these types of conversations, it's transformative. So where we as a company, so let me take a step back. So head of global innovation at ServiceNow is a unique but also nondescript title. What does it mean? What it means is that I have a team of futurists and innovation officers, and all we do is study all of these trends. We spend all of our time with executives at enterprise companies, so IT leaders, technology leaders, but also business leaders, also business unit leaders, also CFOs, COOs, chief AI officers, because now what we're starting to get to, with the simple example of tabs, when you can radically shift someone's work, you now get to the question of, what are we going to do differently? That's not a functional silo question. That's a business transformation question. And
Yeah.
now you raise it all the way up, where it's not just about AI fluency or AI skills. It's now about, wow, we were using AI to do what we did yesterday better tomorrow. We were going faster. We were making things more scalable, less expensive. And that's usually the conversation that we have. But when we come in, we're able to demonstrate new use cases, but also new applications for the questions you ask.
Mm,
And the questions you ask isn't just about what you did yesterday better. How can I make it faster? How can I make it cheaper? How can I make it more scalable, et cetera? It's, why are we doing it that way? What if we re-examined the flow and see where it's optimized or not optimized for where the world could be in 2030, for example?
yeah.
Do we need to reimagine it? Could we rebuild it with agents? Could we make it almost like the way an AI native company builds their company from scratch? Could we take that workflow and apply an AI native mindset? And so this is what I'm excited about, because when we can get an audience with someone who says, I didn't know to think about it that way, you're telling me now I can, in the right applications, we bring this dual mindset, or as Dave Wright, he's our chief innovation officer, a bimodal mindset, where we now are in the position to assess, do we want to make yesterday better, or do we want to do what we couldn't do yesterday tomorrow? And now this is a automation augmentation conversation. And that's where I get really excited. It's actually taking all of these crazy things that are happening all around the world so quickly and synthesizing it in a very simple way for people to be able to make decisions about strategy, because then they can't unsee what they heard or what they saw. And now we could have a meaningful conversation, not just about how to take a workflow across the enterprise on a platform, but how to reimagine that work. And then once we free up time, we get big conversations like, what should the human orchestration role look like? How would we write the job description? How would we skill it? And now we can help people see that they have longevity, they have runway, they have opportunity working with AI versus this, I don't want to be replaced by it. Then we make the conversations more productive and future forward.
Okay, I love that. And this is actually a concept I've been thinking about for a number of years now, but you said a word there that like really checked the box of describing what this, it actually helped me think about this a lot better. So I'll break down, but basically my concept, and I think this is what you're getting at too, is in the future as jobs change, that doesn't mean AI is going to obviously replace people, because we need someone monitoring the AI. We need someone understanding what's going on. And I've kind of thought of this idea of being like a manager and optimizer of workflows. Like you'll be an AI, an AI workflow manager, where essentially what you did today, now an AI can do a lot of the nitty gritty, clicky, copy paste, but you need to like understand the whole system. The word I love that you used was orchestration. And I like that because it makes me think of a full orchestra, right? These AIs, there's so many different tools and they have so many different roles. And so you are really orchestrating. You are the conductor of this orchestra of AI, but you're making sure that everything runs smoothly. When you see a hiccup, you call it out, you pause it, you go fix it, you monitor it. At the end of the day, the whole system can do maybe 5, 10, 20x what you could do in the past. So it can do so much more, but you still need someone that is an expert in that field to monitor and orchestrate everything going on there. So I really love that concept. And I think it really answers the question of like what is our relationship with AI? Are we all going to get replaced? And obviously not. It's just going to help us to do more and more unique things. And you're going to have to be a little bit more analytical and think of things at a higher level. So I'm really excited about that. You brought up Atlas, and I'm curious because I've actually spent the last not yesterday, the day before, I spent like basically the whole day using it, testing it, getting it to do a bunch of different things. And I'm curious your take on kind of the state of where some of these autonomous agents that can take control of everything that is on your screen, right, and what it can do. Like, where are we today and where are we going to be in like a year with that technology?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna guess where we'll be at a year
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I haven't had a chance. So it's my job to think through what these scenarios can be, and I haven't had a chance to do that with Atlas yet. I've only had one day
Sure.
with it, and, and my use case, aside from the research synthesis, my other use case for it, this is going to sound so funny, but it was a real need, and it's actually going to bring me back to something I want to bring up, and I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. I've been in New York 7 out of the last 6 weeks, and I'm
Okay.
gonna be back there again next week. And I don't know, sometimes I have to open TikTok just to see what the latest is culturally. And it seems to know that I'm in New York
Okay.
quite a bit. And so I'm getting all of these TikToks of restaurants that are impossible to get into and that people are sharing their experiences. And of course I have FOMO as I'm looking at this. And so the other use case was using Atlas to understand what all of the hard to get into restaurants are, then find the platforms of which you could reserve them, which the most common one is Resi. And then I had it go through the dates, the times, the number of people to see where it might be able to find an opening or get notified of a future opening just in case. And watching it do all of this work was fascinating. And as you know, and for those who haven't used it yet, it's explaining what it's doing, how it's
Yeah.
interpreting your ask. It adds some language because it knows you're reading it, so it makes it a little bit entertaining. I can't let them down, like
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
things like that. But it I didn't get a reservation, but I did one learn all about the landscape of restaurants that I would love to go to one day. But
Sure.
two, it did need passwords. It did need approvals. It did need things in order to orchestrate all of this work across different systems. And so I was pleasantly, I was geeking out. That's probably
Okay.
the best way to describe it. And essentially, then where I think it'll be in a year, it's so profound. There's two things. One is there's a just so happened to have a book with this title.
All
There's a
right.
mind shift that needs to happen.
When did this book come
Uh,
out, by the way?
it's this year,
This
and
year. Okay.
this last year, yeah, and it's now a bestseller, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Of course, I
USA
wouldn't
Today,
expect anything less. Brian Solis, Mind Shift. Where can people find it?
Amazon,
Amazon.
your
All
favorite
right.
bookstore. It's all around the world, but also it got an Axiom book award, a business book award, which was like now it's legit. It's a
Okay.
best-selling and award-winning book. But for those who don't know, it talks about what it's basically breaking down Jaden's question. It's what are all of the things I need to pay attention to? How do I break them down to make them meaningful? And how do I make them meaningful to everyone around me so that we can actually do something about it together rather than saying change is too hard. We'll wait and see. Like, the tagline is transform leadership, drive innovation and reshape the future. Essentially, as a practicing futurist, it makes everybody an everyday futurist, essentially, but also an everyday storyteller, an everyday leader. It's about empowering us to not just take all the cool things. It's about telling the stories of where we're going so that people will want to take control of their destiny, whether it's for themselves or teams or companies, et cetera. And the first part of the book is about this. How do you get to this mind shift? You have to be able to see that you can't see the opportunities, take a step back and go through these exercises that essentially unlock self-awareness, unlock a beginner's mindset, unlock creativity, curiosity, imagination, all these great things, so that then as you're seeing these tools, you're having big ideas about them that you couldn't have had otherwise. And so this
Hmm.
is how I get to the where we're going to be in a year from now. The big unlock for me is we're shifting, you kind of said it earlier, we're shifting to this world where we do tasks. Like we're gonna accomplish this, we've got a to-do list, we've got all these things. And when you can break tasks down into things that become executable into a workflow,
Hmm.
whether that's human orchestration with AI agents or as we say, humans in the loop or humans above the loop, we're now then having to start at the end. What is the outcome we want to achieve? And then how do we then make that outcome happen in the best possible, most creative way, most valuable way too? Because what we don't want to do, which we could talk about as well, is give all of our thinking and creativity to AI so that we just become a mindless orchestrator. We want to be the standard of which AI is working toward. And so now, if we look at, say, Atlas, I haven't spent as much time with Comet, but I know that they're on similar paths.
Yep.
And if we're shifting towards, if shifting towards a world then of people working towards outcomes, and people then start becoming creative around how those outcomes are achieved, then the outcomes can also be elevated so that there becomes differentiation between how someone performs something against how I perform something. So now what we're starting to see is how a browser is going to change behaviors and it's going to change standards. And as a result of that, it's going to change preferences, expectations, a lot of human things. And take into account as that's happening, you have a whole other contingency of people who might use the browser the way that they use ChatGPT today as an example, which is do my thinking for me.
Hmm.
And that part we see AI atrophy that it's called. We see cognitive offloading. We see AI psychosis, and so all of these things that are happening at a human level is essentially making us less creative, making us less able to critically think, etc. So now you have not only a performance gap, you have sort of this human gap between skills and capability and capacity. On one side, you don't even realize you're growing and learning and performing in different ways, and on the other side, you're just kind of hitting the easy button and you're sort of saying, you're professing without saying it out loud, like, hey, AI, replace all the things that make me unique.
Yep.
So on one side, a year from now, you're going to have this clear differentiation in capacity between how humans use things like this. And it's going to be, Atlas is going to accelerate it because it essentially makes it very clear from the start that this isn't just a browser to surf the web. This is a browser to get things done. And then one example of where we are a year from now, I can't help but think about how then a human makes decisions about what to do. Say
Hmm.
dinner, say a trip, say shopping for a car or shopping for a mountain bike. I am now not going to do the things I typically did before, which was go to Google or go to YouTube and manually conduct all of this input, where then companies help control what I find through SEO or what have you, all
Yep.
of the optimization. Now we're going to see this new wave of having to compete where my agents are going. The companies are now going to have to reimagine optimization for discovery because the whole process of discovery is about to control alt delete. And I won't say about, it is for you, it is for me. And that's powerful. So how we make decisions, how we discover how to make decisions is a year from now wildly different than it is today.
100%. Yeah. And I think there's definitely this big shift, and it'll be interesting because you always have the people that are kind of on the cutting edge. I would say that would be you on how to implement it. There's people that might be doing what you're doing today in 6 months, a year, 2 years, and there's people that are kind of on the far tail end of that. So there's definitely a bell curve on it. But I think we're in a huge shift right now on, like you mentioned, using AI for the decision making aspect more so than just like, hey, help me write this email, help me, come up with this copy. It's now like, oh, it can do multiple steps. It can help me with this whole thing. Recently, and I think you're right. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays into if we get lazy and let the AI do a lot, or how much critical thinking we put into it. But I think it's interesting, and I think that there is 100% there's an incentive for us to use this. Just yesterday, I have a network of podcasts. I have a bunch of podcast hosting platforms that were offering me like deals basically to move my network over. So I had like these contracts. I was looking at it, and I got so sick of looking at these contracts. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I had Atlas open. I'm like, Atlas, read all of these contracts from these different companies, and then also go on the internet and search for like all the other companies that do similar things. See what their CPMs, if they put ads on your network, how much money you can make, like all of the different things, right? It sat there for a while, and it consolidated. It made this incredible report for me that was so useful. And what was interesting was right before it had done that, I had actually just started to do this the old fashioned way that I've done my whole life. I opened up YouTube. I was like, review of XYZ platform. How does it compare to this platform? I'm watching this video. I'm like 10 minutes into the video, and I'm like, this is the slowest way to do the research ever. I went over to Atlas, and it did the whole thing in 10 minutes, but it compared like 7 different platforms and gave me like a clear outline of the winner. And I think for a lot of different people in their jobs and their workflows, like this will be the future, where essentially you're going to be using these tools to help you come up with way better research than you could ever do before. And then I guess my question to you is, do you think, like, what percentage of people do you think, or what do you think the state of the workforce will be if people will basically get lazy and let the AI do all the thinking, and not like back it up, fact check it, put their own thought into it, just click accept okay because it already did all this work, surely it knows. Like, do you feel like that's a concern?
Should it be a concern? Absolutely. Is it a concern? I don't know that people actually know that they're giving their thinking to AI.
Sure.
I think if you just generally, if you look at the way that companies are talking about AI and the future of AI and skills and fluency, it could be perceived that an employee will say, I am using AI, therefore I am becoming fluent with it. Therefore, I'm gaining the skills of how to use these types of tools, and I am on my path. But in the example then of working towards outcomes and how someone like you might use it more creatively for analyzing contracts, and maybe say, I'm just assuming you did this. There were probably things as you were reading it. Well, that doesn't sound right. Let me check that, and then find that might have been that might have been an area of a potential hallucination. And none of the contracts actually said that. And then what you're starting to demonstrate now is up leveling your role with AI.
Hmm.
And if we take the paths over 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, you're going to see a performance grade between someone like you and someone who's offloading their thinking to AI. And that delta becomes disruption. And that's true for
Yep.
business performance as well. And so that I've been spending whatever free time I have calling out that delta. I'm having this conversation with people who might follow my work. Like, how are you using it? Got to be aware of this. The famous New York Times article about the gentleman who fell to AI psychosis because 10,000 hours added up over time with AI telling you you're the smartest, you're the best, thank you for catching that. And he started to believe that he actually solved an unsolvable mathematical problem, which he didn't. But when you read the whole prompt history and the conversation, he was convinced he did. And so he wasn't in a position to be mindful or aware or self-conscious of the fact that that could happen. But if we had this conversation and say, hey, watch out for that because this is what it could lead to, I'm pretty sure that might have led to a different outcome for him. So I feel like when we say we need more AI literacy, it includes these things. Here's how not to use it. Here are some ways to use it. Because if we get back to where we were with human orchestration, we're essentially, I just wrote this article for Forbes, we're essentially moving to what we call at ServiceNow agentic workflow management. So it's a mindset of how we think about deployment, management, scale, evolution, revolution, et cetera. And the idea of having a control tower, a tool of which then you can actually actively manage your agents and your workflows, then starts to push you on this path towards not just the outcomes you started with, but you'll find ways to deliver net new outcomes, net new value. And that's where I would like to see humanity go. One of the things that stopped me in my tracks recently was a headline where McKinsey said that they're probably going to be exiting a big chunk of staff that cannot be reskilled.
Hmm.
And those words cannot be reskilled. Just the teacher in me, the dad in me wanted to just say, how can I change that?
Hmm.
Everyone can be reskilled.
Yeah.
So how do we expand that conversation?
What do you think the solution is for that? I mean, obviously, this is something you've thought about before, but like, I don't think McKinsey's the only company. There's probably a number of companies that probably feel this way about maybe certain segments of their employee base. And by the way, I don't even think that's always the employee's fault. Like, I've spoken with people that work at companies where they're like, yeah, like my company, early on they came out and said we couldn't use Chat GPT, and now we can only use like these partial things, and so we don't really use it, and it's not really a big focus at our company. And regardless of the state of that company long term, like that employee today might not be getting very fluent with AI. And if they have to move to a new job and position, which evidently in the future all will require that, like where do you see the state of upskilling people today, and the challenges and how we overcome them?
It's all over the place. It's what you just described. It's also a bit of uh, here here is an enterprise version of these tools that you can use so that we have some governance and guardrails around how you use it. And here's a an HR document about how to and how not to use it in your work. But it isn't it isn't a class. And here's what working with AI does to you. Here's how working with AI can help expand your thinking and your creativity. I think employers that know those answers are AI native companies because they're building from scratch. They know they're seeing it firsthand and they're working in real time around it. But I think for everybody else that is responding to it, you have a classical organization, a classical and skilling. Now you have a technology that enters the fray that is so different fundamentally from anything that's ever come through this system that it's challenging it.
Hmm.
And so where it first has to make an impact is here. So the mindset, the mind shift. We have to be able to say like, okay, I am training people to use these tools. I'm giving them the guardrails to use these tools. But where I really feel like I can make an impact, not just for our employees, but for the future of our business, is to have conversations like with you, where you challenge me and you ask me, where do you think you'll be a year from now? Where do you think this role will be a year from now? Because then I have to think about it.
Hmm.
And when I think about it, if I really think about certain things role by role, then if I reverse engineer the outcomes I'm trying to get to and the technology and how it can get there, and then the role the humans can play with agents and AI along the way, I now have a grasp role by role of then this is how I might reimagine this role. I might rewrite the job description. These are the skills that might be necessary to make that happen. I don't know because we haven't done it yet, but
Hmm.
now I'm going to, hey, Brian, would you like to raise your hand to try this university program that we're going to roll out on how to upskill, up level your collaboration with AI? And now what we see is actual growth where people can, well, that's when we really know whether someone can or cannot be reskilled. But it starts with a future motivating state that we can articulate, and then people can sign up to say, yes, I would like to learn how to go there. And we're not doing that at scale.
Yep, I love that. I think that is spot on, and that is honestly that explanation there. I feel like I need to send that to like 20 different firms that ask me that question because I feel like it's a great explanation and a good way to think about it. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, sharing so many different insights. As we're wrapping up here, I'm wondering if there's one thing that you feel like people are not paying attention to with AI in the future, maybe something that people are getting wrong or they're thinking about wrong. I know you spent a lot of time thinking about this space. Is there something that you feel like you'd like to correct for the record and maybe help people get some extra clarity on a topic?
Absolutely. Well, if you're listening to this, feed the transcript and say, give me the three things I need to walk away with, because everything we talked about is like you have to pay attention to. But I'll just simplify this. Whether you're an employee, whether you're an entrepreneur, or whether you're a manager or a leader or you work in HR, let's take it back to the human level. There are these things like cognitive offloading and AI atrophy and AI psychosis in all of its stages. These are very real things, and they don't happen overnight. They happen over time. And I can tell you that I see a lot of this stuff in my day to day interactions just on something like LinkedIn. The posts that people are producing, the comments that people are producing at scale, right? So, for example, you can use Atlas to take a comment and reformat it for everybody that's commented on your LinkedIn posts, for example, and let it do that for you. But you can tell it's not you. And it's clear as day if you've been studying this enough. And I fear that by the time it's clear to someone else, this is why you get so much AI slop out there or work slop. It is below the bar acceptable. And it's telling me that you're offloading your thinking, your creativity, who you are. So if it's one thing you pay attention to is to look at that. Cause like it comes down to if I talk to you in person, I can tell there's certain ways that you phrase sentences now. There's certain words that you use. I could tell if you post something. And this is now showing me like Wall-E,
Yeah.
that Pixar movie, that we're giving our individuality, our essence, our soul, our who we are away without realizing it. That's what differentiates us. So that's the one thing I will leave us with.
Okay.
And I want to say that that's a positive note because this is your moment to change the trajectory of your role with AI.
I absolutely love that. And I think that's spot on. Just be yourself and use your real authentic self. You cannot use AI to replace you online. I know a lot of people probably think that, maybe it's a shortcut to growth because you can leave way more comments. But yeah, I think it really is about quality and keeping your humanity on that. So I appreciate that point. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show. So many incredible insights. This was a great one. I feel like I need to re-listen to it because I feel like you had a lot of awesome points in here. So thanks so much. For anyone that is curious, I'll leave a link in the show notes to Brian's book. This wasn't a book promo, but you mentioned it, so we gotta leave it in the show notes for people. And you can find Brian over on LinkedIn. Drops all sorts of amazing information over there as well. So thanks so much for coming on the show. And to the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you in the next episode. Make sure to leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.